Good evening, everyone. For today's question, I decided to answer question number 5. First part, is the international environment more dangerous, meaning less secure, for the United States now, or was it during the Cold War? In my opinion, the international environment is more dangerous for the United States because of three main incidents: the growing number of countries attempting to gain nuclear weapons, the potential threat of those countries actually using nuclear weapons, and the current economic threats that could take place within our country. Even though our security measures seem to be greater and we have a far better understanding of national security, the international environment is more dangerous than during the Cold War because of the growing possibilities of threats. We no longer have to solely worry about the Soviet Union or Russia today as being a threat, but more countries, specifically countries that have been decades behind and less of a threat. These countries are gaining access to the same materials and weapons that we worried about during the Cold War. First, the growing number of countries attempting to gain nuclear weapons. Many probably thought that the face-off of nuclear weapons would only take place during the Cold War. However, today it seems as if there may be a growing number of countries attempting to build nuclear weapons. For example, in previous years of the war in Iraq, leaders in the United States believed that there were nuclear weapons hidden in Iraq. Even though we did not find nuclear weapons, the United States was still worried at the time. This week, our textbook author mentions another country attempting to build nuclear weapons. This country is North Korea. The United States and North Korea have already had a long withstanding controversy during the Vietnam War and the continuing practices of communism today. North Korea currently has an active nuclear research program, has the material to build nuclear weapons, and has actually admitted to fabricating a nuclear device. Today, North Korea is still seen as a growing threat to the efforts of national security in the United States. Not only is the growing number of countries attempting to gain nuclear weapons dangerous to the international environment, but the uncertainties of those countries actually using nuclear weapons continues to be dangerous to international environment for the United States. Last, economic threats could potentially take place in our country. Our textbook author mentions the uncertainties of economic threats, also known as non-military elements of security, in China because trade with China is detrimental for American consumer goods and would prove to be dangerous for our security if we no longer traded with China. Second part of the question. How does the text answer the first question? The text mentions the post-Cold War is a more secure, less threatening place than before for the United States because the country is better able to realize its interest. Once again, the textbook author argues that the post-Cold War, also known as today, is a more secure, less threatening place because we are better able to realize the country's interest in national security. And third part of the question, do you agree or disagree with the arguments in the text? I personally disagree with the arguments of the author because as technology advances and the possibility of other countries advance, especially if our enemies are capable of advancing, then the threat of security becomes far greater, in my opinion. Since the beginning of the wars in Iraq and Afghanistan, we have already seen the advancement of weapons by our enemies, for instance IEDs, and how far our enemies are willing to go. Therefore, as we continue into the future, the international environment will become more dangerous, in my opinion. We can always advance our national security capabilities, but the more technology advances, the more danger and less secure our country becomes. Even though military threat is not always prevalent, the book mentioned different levels of security, like non-military and semi-military. Therefore, even though military entities may not be less secure, non-military and semi-military could be once again, like economics or even the threat of cybersecurity. These could potentially be less secure. So thank you for visiting my post, and I would love to hear your feedback and recommendations and your responses. Thank you.